Hello and welcome once again to What's Out There, the paranormal podcast from the Out There Paranormal Group. And chatting for you on this episode we have myself, Nigel.
And myself, Juliette.
So what are we going to be talking about this time? Well, actually it's a bit of an ad hoc job, unfortunately. Not my favourite thing, but...
I love it.
I know you love it, but I always feel like...
Nothing wrong with a bit of ad hoc.
I've got to make it up as I'm going along. What we really wanted to talk about is the last investigation that we did at the Witch's Leg at St Mary's Church at East Somerton. We've put a video up on our YouTube channel, and I'll put all the links in the description of this podcast so you can actually go and have a look yourselves. But we had some very, very odd things happening there.
We did indeed.
It was very, very strange. Not what we expected at all. We rocked up with a little bit of kit, just doing an investigation. We were telling, we've got a new series that we're putting out on various sort of social media sections, a new video series called Tales of Haunted Norfolk. And we're looking at local tales and retelling them and actually doing an investigation at the sites as well to see what we can pick up with. The church at East Somerton, St Mary's Church, has got a well-known folklore tale attached to it about a witch who's allegedly buried in the church, who had a wooden leg, who then grew up and knocked the roof off the church and destroyed the village all around her. So we thought we'd tell the story and then we'll go and do an investigation. So we told the story, then we did the investigation, and we didn't get an awful lot of witch, but we got an awful lot of other things that we really weren't expecting. Let's say you.
Absolutely. It was quite interesting, some of the stuff we did get. Some of it did fall in line with some experiences that other people have had. We had monks, didn't we?
We did indeed, yeah.
But they weren't quite monks, were they, Nigel?
They're not monks, no. I covered this in an article that I wrote for Haunted magazines in issue 33 with regards to how it's important to research when you go on investigations. And my digging around discovered the fact that a little way down the road from this ruined church was a leper hospital called St Leonard's, and I've got a feeling that the actual leper hospital isn't where it's placed on the map, it's nearer. And I do believe that this church, it's not a church, it's actually a chapel, was attached to that leper hospital. So they're not monks that people are seeing, they're actual lepers, because
But you said they lived like monks, didn't
they would have lived a monastic lifestyle. Yeah. They were, because leprosy at the time was seen to be a holy disease.
That's right.
It was like you were being tested by God, and rumours were that it originated in the Holy Land as well, so that's why. So they weren't. People seem to think they're sort of treated like outsiders, and they'd be like hooded up and ringing a bell, shouting "unclean." It wasn't like that at all. They were a lot more revered. They could quite easily go out and get alms, where they could actually sort of collect money. They'd be given food. Hospitals were set up to look after them and actually paid for by rich benefactors, because they felt by looking after the lepers that would move them closer to God, and they were doing their own good deeds. So yeah,
It's very interesting as well that you talk about the hospital being nearer, because I picked up on the bigger building being
you
close
said there was another building there
to the church.
Yeah, and you said
or
to me
chapel.
it's not this building. You said it's
Yeah.
another building and it's bigger than this one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wouldn't that be amazing if
Yeah,
it actually was?
right way you said it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, the other thing you picked up on as well was the fact that you said there was fighting there.
Yeah.
There was fighting there.
Go on.
Okay. There's two different kinds of fighting that took place there. Bit further down again, but we're talking, when I say a bit further down, we're talking no less than half a mile away, where the actual church at West Somerton is, the next door village. It's actually built on a piece of land called the Blood Hills.
Right.
And there was meant to be a battle between Saxons from that area and Viking invaders.
Okay, yeah.
And the other interesting fact is that in 1272, the lepers, really upset with the way that the prior was treating them at the hospital, had a revolt. And they attacked the prior, burnt his house down, and killed his dog, which had been set on the lepers and the people that had been visiting them. So it's really, really strange that Jules should pick up on the fact that there was fighting there. Jules had this idea, didn't you, Jules?
I did indeed.
Okay. So you're going to tell them what your idea was?
Well, basically, I thought it would be a good idea to open up the views, other people's views on our investigation, just to see what other people thought once they'd watched our investigation. It would be interesting to get other people's views and opinions about what it could possibly be that we actually picked up on, because goodness, we've got no idea, have we?
Absolutely no idea.
I mean, the bombing sounds, we were just, excuse the pun, blown away. We just had no idea what it could have been.
And God, it just came out of nowhere. I mean, we went there thinking we're going to be picking up on maybe a witch who's supposed to be buried under the church.
Yeah, absolutely.
There might be these mysterious monks that other people have experienced while they were there, and we thought, well, we might get some of that. I honestly thought that we'd get nothing at all. I thought we'd be there for a couple of hours and it would be very quiet and we'd get bored and we want to go home.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at all.
It really wasn't.
It was
was
not.
truly fascinating.
Yeah.
You're gonna, if you haven't watched it, please watch the video, because if you want to give us your opinions, please do send us a message. Let us know what you think about it, because things happened we honestly cannot explain, and believe you me, we tried to. After the investigation, we did a heck of a lot of research. Obviously I can't be involved in the research prior to an investigation because of what I do in the team, but following an investigation, I tried to try and look into things and whether anything was happening on that particular night. Nigel did the same, and Nigel's a lot more experienced in research than me. He can find things in very strange places.
I can indeed.
But again, no idea.
No.
So let us know what you think. But for now, before we speak to our very special guest, we also had some questions that were sent to us on Twitter by our followers. And they're not entirely about the investigation, but they have certainly asked us some very interesting questions. Don't you think, Nigel?
They have indeed, yeah. The idea was that we would ask them about the investigation, but questions are questions and we do like to answer them. So we're going to run through the ones that we've got and see if we can actually come up with some suitable answers for you. I'm going to say who the people were as well, so you know who you are when your questions come up. So where shall we start? Okay. First of all, Ken. For those of you who've listened to Uncanny, this is the famous Ken, the Room 611 Ken. And he, first of all, has asked us, what is the scariest experience you've had? So, my scariest experience, wow. I suppose the one that really sticks out in my mind was the investigation I did with the previous group where something touched my face and that frightened the living daylights out of me. And yeah, I don't know about recently. I suppose really the investigation over at Deetham, maybe.
Really?
Although it wasn't really scary, was it? I was just surprised by what went on.
Yeah.
And would I call it scary? I wouldn't call it scary. I'd call it an experience. The recent investigation we've just done at East Somerton, the bombs.
Yeah, but was that scary?
No, it wasn't scary.
It wasn't scary.
It was, I've gone off on the tangent here, haven't I? I've forgotten the scary element and gone down the amazing element, which is...
It's got to be scary.
Yeah, I know.
Do you want to hear my scary?
I got distracted. Go on then, you're scary.
My scary was Castle Rising Castle at King's Lynn.
Yeah.
Now that was scary. We were lucky enough to be allowed down into the oubliette, and yeah, I don't get scared very often on investigations. Things can make me jump on occasion, but I don't get scared.
You don't.
I'm quite happy to walk alone in the darkness down a very spooky path, things like that. But this particular investigation, I really felt evil, negativity. It was horrific. And obviously we all know about oubliettes and the unpleasantries that went on, during the period when they used them. And it was absolutely horrific, throwing people down to their death and leaving them awful, to die a terrible death of starvation in the dark. It must have been horrific.
Oh, God, yeah.
Absolutely horrific. But for me, sensing pure evil is the only way I can describe it. And not human either. For me, and that was the first time I've ever experienced that kind of energy, That for me was scary.
That weirdest thing is that I was also on the same investigation, but it was in a different group, and we went down the oubliette as well, and something firmly pushed me in the back, nearly pushed me flying. It shoved me so hard.
Yeah, because you went in after me, didn't you?
We did, yeah.
And I could see it. I could see this whatever darkness swirling round. I was
Really
actually
strange.
watching it. It was weird. Darker than dark is the way I would describe it. And it was horrible. And it was just shocking that you got shoved, actually.
Yeah, a real.
Because I didn't say anything to you, did I?
No, not we sort of crossed it past, didn't we? You were then going on to look at another part of the castle, and we're now going to go down here. But yeah, that was odd. And it wasn't a nice atmosphere at all in there. Didn't like that at all. So, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. There was a creepy one, yeah.
All right. Ken has been very generous with us tonight. We have 3 questions from Ken. Thank you, Ken.
Go on in.
The second one was, what experience has been the most difficult to explain?
Wow.
Where to start?
Yeah. I was just going off on that tangent with the previous bit of talking before, with the other question. The recent experience that we had at East Somerton with the bombing. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to pop that in here for you so you can actually hear it, okay? And then I'll go back to it and then carry on talking. So this is what we actually heard. So I'm going to pop in the sound that we picked up on the night right now. Have a listen to it, and then we'll carry on afterwards.
Sounds like bombs.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, okay, it's not the clearest thing in the world, but you can clearly hear those explosions in the background, and we really do not know what they are. So there you go, one that I can't explain. The other one that I really moved me was the second visit we made to Station 142 at Deafin Green when Juliette was crossing Spirit over. And I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that on an investigation. It's really shook me to my core because I'm sceptical. I will question everything. And it was just such a strange experience. I saw that flash in front of me when Juliet said one was crossing over. I saw it. And to feel those people brushing past me, and then the incredible sense of peace and relief at the end of it. I mean, I burst into tears. Such a profound experience, and I really cannot explain it. So there's mine.
But could it be psychosomatic? You know, because I told you I was crossing people, and then could you have just been caught up with that? Or do you think it was more? Because, I mean, the brushing past you, could it be psychosomatic? Or
it was just the way it felt, though, Jules. I mean,
yeah.
You didn't say to me, there's going to be a flash. I saw it and said.
Yeah, true, actually.
You know, you didn't warn me.
No, I didn't.
I just said, what was that? And you said, what did you see? And I said, there was a brilliant flash of light.
Yeah.
And you just said to me then, it's you crossing
That's
them
true.
over. So you hadn't
That's
actually said
very true.
anything to me. Yeah, it could be psychosomatic. I could then be thinking, wow, I could feel them coming past me. But
it doesn't explain the flash, though.
no, it doesn't. No, that triggered the whole thing off. So that's very, very strange. Yeah.
Well, for me, I would probably say Deafin Green, because, my gosh, we were just bang on the money, weren't we? All the way through. I mean, the Steve that I picked up on, you can see the video, actually. It's on Amazon Prime, or it's on our website, if you want to have a look, or YouTube.
Yeah.
So check the video out. It's very, very interesting. And Nigel's put a lot of information in there about the history as well. It really is quite fascinating. But, wow, connecting with Steve and his fellow airmen, I mean, that for me was amazing because... And there was no way I could have known some of that stuff.
No.
I mean, the name you would think was common. Actually, Nigel, it wasn't, was it, in those days?
There were 2 on that base. Only one of them was aircrew.
And what else did I say to you about him?
You said that you got this sense that he was going on about guns, but then you also said that he fixes things. Why is he's going on about guns, but he fixes things as well, and you couldn't figure out why. So I thought he was an armourer. I said he must be an armourer, and you said no, he's aircrew. He's on the aeroplane.
Yeah.
Wasn't till that night when we were talking about it, we were doing the live to Facebook, and somebody said to us the positions on the plane. and they said to him, "We found your man, top turret gunner, flight engineer."
Amazing.
And he was the top turret gunner, flight engineer.
It really was.
Yeah,
It was a
honestly.
very emotive experience.
It
even
was
for me.
incredible, wasn't it?
You know, but that, I mean, we saw the shadows in front of the car.
I mean-
we went back to Deetham at another time to recreate it, didn't we?
And we couldn't.
Same temperature, everything.
Yeah.
You know, summer's evening, with same car, parked in the same place.
Yeah.
We couldn't recreate it,
No.
and we live streamed it on Facebook, so people were watching it at the same time that it was going on with us. And we have no idea what it was. It looked like people moving around. It looked like propeller blades, shadows of a former event in the past.
Yeah.
We don't know. We really don't know. I don't know. I'm supposed to be the psychic, and I have no idea.
Could not explain that at all. Yeah, that's completely fascinating. Because like you said, when we were looking, we went back over the video and looked at the shadows and isolated some, and you could see some of them were figures moving.
Yeah.
But the propeller blades.
But you even went out of the car, didn't you? You were throwing things in front of the headlights.
Waving my hand in front of it.
Yeah.
To see if I could get it.
To see, was it a moth? Was it a daddy long legs? Was it somebody's... You know, well, it wouldn't have been somebody's hand because we were both sat in the car. There's nobody
Well, we
there.
did. I went out and put my hand in front of the lights to actually see, and that was the only way I could actually get a shadow the same sort of size.
Yes.
Was to have something that big and that close
Yeah.
to the lens to actually do it.
Bizarre.
Yeah, and we would have seen something like that.
Oh, God, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. Excuse the pun. I'm full of
Oh,
these tonight.
you're full of it tonight, aren't
My
you?
God.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there we go. There's a few of our we can't explain it experiences for you.
And the final one, Nige, from Ken.
Is there anywhere you have visited that you would never go there again, and why? Actually, no, I don't think there is.
No, the problem is being paranormal investigators, if something happens, you want to go back.
You do, yeah.
You know, good or bad, you're intrigued.
Yeah.
You want to go back.
You want to go back.
You
yeah.
want to know what it is, why it is, how it is. You know, so yeah, anything like that causes any form of experiences, you know, you want to go back.
Yeah. When there are places that I would have trepidations about going into,
Yeah.
you know, but then I'd still want to go in there.
But we're sensible. We use protection and things like that, which we'll come on to later.
We do, yeah. We don't go anywhere that's like older ruined buildings, anywhere that's unsafe. We're very, very careful about what we do and where we go.
Absolutely.
We make sure people know where we are as well. So, you know, we're sort of quite cautious on that front. Yeah, but no, as far as I'm concerned, anywhere is open.
Absolutely. Bring it on, is what I say.
I will go there. Okay, questions. We have another one here. I'll ask the question, but the young lady's going to answer it for me. This is from Nikki. After watching the YouTube video, this is the East Somerton one that we did, I really would like to ask Juliette what precautions she takes to protect you both from malevolence on excursions like this.
Okay, so I tend to work with positive energy. I work with angels. There's one in particular that I work with. And I will always do a circle of protection for our team before we enter a venue. And using our circle of protection, I will send healing energy around the members of the circle and ensure that they are fully protected. And I will then close the circle. I do exactly the same thing before we leave as well, to make sure that nothing follows us home or, you know, gets in the car with us, because we don't want none of that. We've all seen it in the movies. Nah, we don't want any of that. Thank you very much. So that's what I do. I work with angels. I do protection. I think it's very, very important. I've made mistakes in the past where I haven't. It hasn't been too pleasant. So yes, learning from my previous historic errors, I will always use protection, and that's how I do it.
And I have to say, I feel an awful lot safer knowing that you've done that as well. I've been on investigations in the past where people have said to me, I'm going to stand outside the circle, you know, and see what happens.
Yeah,
And I'm
not
like,
smart.
don't want to do that. I don't want to
No.
take any risks. Whether or not you believe in these things, whether you just think it's mad mumbo jumbo, I'm not going to take the risk. You know, I want to be there and I want to make sure that I'm protected. And that's Juliette's department. I wouldn't really know what to do. But I also, I'm not a Christian, but I wear a cross that my mother gave me. And she said that she's put a prayer in it to protect me. So I always have this with me as well. And I also sort of ask spirits not to follow me as well when if I'm actually doing daylight filming at certain venues. I did it at East Somerton. I will ask spirit not to follow me, and I'll say a short prayer before I go in as well. So stuff that I've learned off of Juliette. So yeah, we're very, very, very careful about what we do, because you honestly,
We have to be.
you don't know what you're dealing with.
No. None of us do.
Yeah, that is the gamble, and you don't want to take a gamble.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've got another couple of questions to answer for you now. This is from Mark Davis at Paranormal Reason. Has anybody been able to verify the existence of the said witch? This is the one with a wooden leg that's supposed to be buried under the tree in the church at East Somerton. Or explained how a tree is growing in the ruins of the church when the witch was buried outside the church. It's things like this that keep me awake at night. I know exactly what you mean, Mark. Yes, I tried to verify the witch. No. I've not been able to find any record of a witch being in that area at any time. I did through the Witchfinder General stuff at Yarmouth, where he was active across that area. There was no witches from that vicinity that were actually in his trials. Could find nothing in the records. The big problem that we got with this site is all the church records for St Mary's were taken over to the church at Winterton, and unfortunately they had a fire and the records were destroyed. So any information about the church is lost. There's only small bits that you can find mentioned in other records, and I did touch on a few of those in the article that I wrote for Haunted, and in the blog post that I put on the out their website as well. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to verify it. The tree itself, if she was buried there in the 1400s, there's no way that tree is that old. That oak tree is about 100 years old, if that. It is strange that it grows slap bang in the middle of the church, but I don't think it's grown from a wooden leg. So the witch is a great folklore story, but that's all it is. There could well be another witch buried there in that area somewhere, but it's not under the tree in the church, that's for sure.
Okay, and Mark's next question was, where do the ghost monks come from? And where were they based? Now, we did touch on this
We've
earlier,
actually
didn't
touched on
we?
this a little bit earlier, Mark, so yeah, sorry we sort of jumped in a bit there. They're not monks per se, they're actually lepers, although they would still be religious brethren because they lived a monastic life. They would have had some other people to look after them. The hospital where I think they came from, St Leonard's Hospital, which is supposed to be at West Somerton, but I think it was nearer to the site that we are, would have had a prior to look after them, so it's another monk of sorts, and they probably would have had another couple of helpers to help as well. So yeah, there is definitely evidence that it could have been monks in that area, but they would have more likely been lepers rather than holy brethren, but they still lived the same monastic lifestyle. So
Which is why they would look like monks.
exactly, they were effectively monks. They were doing exactly the same thing as the monks were doing, and they would have had monks of some kind looking after them as well. So there we go, there are monks in that area. So the monk stories do have a ring of truth to them.
Okay, so our next question was from Dave Eldridge. Thank you, Dave. Now, Dave wants to know, what do you do when outdoors to avoid interpreting any general background noise and contamination as potential paranormal? This is for you, Nigel.
Yeah,
I have to say, it's your expertise.
Okay. What you've got to be is when you are out and about on an investigation, you have to be aware of what's around you. I tend to do a recce of the site first so I can see what's in the general area. So I'd be looking, say for instance, look at East Somerton as an example. Okay, it's a rural site, there's not a lot around it. Okay, there's an operating farm a little bit further down the road. There is a main road a little bit just the other side of the church as well. It's also quite close to the flight path for planes from Norwich Airport as well. So you're listening for noise to see. You can tell agricultural machinery noise, you can tell the noise of tractors and stuff like that. It's fairly obvious what they are. You can also tell if there's a plane flying over as well, because you'll hear that noise. You can also discern the difference between noises that you pick up and background noise like vehicles on the road. It's important to know the area, like I said, about checking it out first so you can work out what noises are going to be there. So then you can sort of differentiate between those and what could be a possible paranormal noise of sorts. The digital recorders that we use are really quite sensitive, and they do pick up lots of noise, so we're sort of quite conscious of that fact. So we do listen to everything very, very carefully. It's quite easy to sort of get confused, especially when you're like looking for EVPs. Was it an EVP? Was it somebody moving? Was it someone sighing? You know, it's...
Or animals, of course.
Exactly. You don't know what's going on around you. So you listen to it really, really carefully. You give it a few listens, but you don't listen to it yourself. You give it to somebody else to listen to as well, to see what they hear, but you don't tell them what you've heard. So by that way, then you're then getting a confirmation of what you're listening to. And if they say, "Oh, I heard this," and it's the same as what you heard, then
so you're not putting the idea into somebody's head, are you?
No, you don't tell them what you heard or what you're listening for. Just say, "Can you hear anything here?" The other thing we do is, if there is too much noise on a location, then we can abandon investigations, and we have done that in the past. We've been
it's
to
a
sites.
shame, but we have to,
you
don't
have
we?
to, yeah. And the other thing is, if you get another party turn up as well, we tend to sort of, rather than stay with another group, would say, "Well, we're done for the night, we'll go."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important that you do check everything you do and double check everything that you do. But yeah, it's basically thinking about what you're doing and making a bit of sort of careful planning beforehand, sort of differentiate between the genuine and the noises that are just there. Okay, the last question we've got before we let our special guest loose is from Steve Parsons from Parascience. Steve, well known actually in paranormal circles, he's written a very good book called Ghostology. My days. Okay, what do you consider the primary aim of an investigation should be? Pursuant to that, what do you consider the primary role of the investigator is? Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We'll try and answer it as best we can.
Yeah.
Everyone's opinions are going to be different as to what they do, because everybody investigates in different ways, but essentially we're looking for the same thing, aren't we? So
we absolutely are, but it's also depending on whether you're a psychic or a skeptic, you know. So I'll be going into an investigation as a psychic, looking for a psychic connection. You will be going into an investigation to debunk.
I'll be looking for evidence, yeah.
You'll be looking for evidence. I love the evidence as well, and I love the history as well, but I'm not allowed to look at any of that until after an investigation, whereas you do a lot of research prior to an investigation, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, to me, investigations are all about finding out what's there. I mean, the interest is, you found a site, there is a story attached to that site. You're going to go and see what you can actually find. But you're going to very carefully lay out what you're doing. So with investigations, I think planning is important. I think research is very, very important, and you want to know as much information as you can. I think gathering evidence is very, very important as well. And I think it's really important to go in with an open mind too. So don't go in already thinking, "Oh, I'm going to experience this, and this."
Because chances are you're not.
You're not going to, no. I mean, the number of times that I've sat in an empty building or sat in a field and got absolutely nothing at all, you know. We're not hoping that we're going to find things, but we're going there because we want to find out what's going on. We want to answer questions. We want to try and understand what's going on. There's experience that you have that you can't explain, and you want some kind of explanation for it. We're not investigators that go out and jump up and down and shout and scream and go, "Whoa, ghosts," or "It's a demon," or "It's this," or "It's that." We calculate what we're doing. We listen very carefully to what's going on. We try and come up with a valid explanation for it. We will give you another reason for what's going on. So if we hear a sound, we could say, "Oh, that could be this," or "It could be that," and give people then the option to make the choice as to what they're hearing, as to whether they think it's paranormal or not.
Yeah, we like to open it up, don't we, to
We do, yeah.
other people, just to get their views on what it could be.
Yeah. I mean, we're not as scientific as some other people would be. We're very, very careful what we do. We police our investigations very, very carefully. So we have an idea when we go in of what we're looking for, because we know the story beforehand. Well, I do. Juliette doesn't, because I don't normally let her know what's going on. Often don't let her know where we're going until the actual night when we go out and investigate. So she's got no way to actually have any prior knowledge of it. We like to mix the two up. Some people will look at the psychic side of it and say it's gobbledygook or rubbish, but I've experienced things that I can't explain with things that Juliette's done. So to me, it's just as valid as the more scientific side of things. I think it's important to actually cover both options, although some people would disagree with me on that. So, how am I doing with that one so far? So, primary role of the investigator is keep an open mind. Make sure you record everything and you record carefully. Okay? Do not invent anything at all. Okay? Be honest, be truthful. Okay? And be willing to share the information that you've got. Also be respectful, because if there is spirit there, and could have been someone, it could be the spirit of someone who's passed away, if that's effectively what you're saying that it is, treat them like normal people. Don't shout, don't be rude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also,
don't provoke.
Exactly.
See too much of that.
There's no point in provoking. Why shout at people? You won't get any answers by shouting.
But it's also a fact you have to think about the fact, if it is spirit, you know, I believe, because I'm a psychic, that it is spirit. I have no idea how I get what I get and why I get it. I really don't know the answer to that. But if it is, show some respect, because you've also got to think about family members that could be living as well. You know, you have to be mindful of that too. So as Nigel said, there's got to be a lot of sense in doing what you do. There has to be a lot of respect. There has to be a lot of honesty. And that's how we conduct ourselves, really.
Yeah, I hope that's the sort of answer you're looking for, Steve. I could go into the sort of technical aspects of it and everything, but really I think it's just be careful what you do. You know, be honest and upfront, and be willing to share, and be respectful.
Absolutely. And you don't have to have all these buzzy little whizzy gadgets as well. You know, you look back in history, you look at people like Harry Price and the way they did things traditionally, and they didn't have all the gadgetry. So if you want to do investigating, you can. You don't need all the funky stuff.
No, you don't.
We
certainly
didn't,
don't.
did we, when we started?
When we first started, we didn't. And actually, as we've gone on, the amount of kit that we carry has got less. You know, we take the things...
That's actually very true.
Yeah, we take the things we think this is going to be useful at this location because it's outside or whatever, and then we'll take the bits that we think we're going to be... It's easier for us not to have a lot of kit laying about as well.
That's very true.
Rely on your own instincts and judgment, but be willing to question everything that you find, because it's important to question all the evidence that you get.
100%.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, hang on, Nige. We've got another question that has just come in.
Uh-oh.
Okay, now this is from Travellers Paranormal, and they want to know, when investigating, do you prefer to go in cold, or do you look up and research beforehand?
Okay, right. We're quite strict about what we do. I think we might sort of run across it in some of the other answers that we said as well. I research. Okay, I like to have as much information as I can about a site before I actually go in. So I'd research the history, I'd research any other experiences that people have had there. I'm not psychic, so I'm not going to pick anything up. But what I like to know is what I need to take with me with regards to bits of equipment and things like that, and what experiments I can run on the night to make sure that I pick up on some of the things that have happened at the locations. So I don't like to go in cold. I do like to research beforehand. But with Juliette, it's completely different.
Yeah, you don't tell me anything.
Nope, I keep it
I'm
quiet.
just left in the dark. If you had your way, you'd put me in a little box and lock me in.
It's not a bad idea, actually.
Thanks.
Well, because you run riot on investigations sometimes, don't you?
I wind him up.
Off on a crazy tangent.
I know, right?
Where are you going, Jules? I need to do this. Well, I can...
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? And you not having any prior knowledge is really, really good, because then anything we pick up on the night, we know that...
Well, you know, I don't.
I know what's going on.
Yeah.
I can try and steer it a certain way without saying anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we know that anything we pick up on the night, especially anything that you pick up on the night...
It's genuine, 100%.
...is genuine, because you've got no prior knowledge.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So yes, in a way I think it's the best way to go. I research before, I also research after as well, because sometimes Juliette will pick up on things when we're out investigating, or we'll have experiences, certain noises, certain things that will happen on the night, so I research again afterwards. To me, it's very, very important to do all of your research. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I bang on about the article that I wrote for Haunted magazine, and that is about research, because there's amazing things you can find out about sites. Here's an example. The recent video we did at East Somerton, I researched that site. Okay, I found out that there was a leper hospital at that site. I also found out that there was a decoy site for World War II near that location as well. I also found out about a quarter of a mile away there's another church at West Somerton, which is on a hill called Blood Hills, where there was a Saxon Viking battle. I also found a little bit further up the road there's a place called Gibbet Hill, where a person was put in a gibbet in 1727. So it's all the information that you can find. You can then use that in your investigations, because you've got that background information that covers the things that happen on the event. We wouldn't have known anything about the weird bombing noises that we had that I played earlier on, not knowing about the decoy site. Knowing about the decoy site immediately makes you think, oh my God, is it something connected with that? You have to sort of think about what you're doing as well, because research can cloud your judgment, but working with it is important as well. So I hope that answers your question. And with that, that is the end of our questions.
It is. That's it for now.
That's it for now. So we've had a little bit of a chat about our last investigation and run through some of the questions that people put onto Twitter for us. But we wanted to get someone on board to actually give us their account of what they thought about it and ask us a few questions possibly. So we asked for volunteers, and this really lovely lady decided to volunteer. Say hello and welcome to Bethan Briggs-Miller from the Eerie Essex podcast. Hiya, Bethan, and thank you very much for volunteering to come on here and help us out.
Of course, I couldn't say no to a fellow East Anglian paranormal folk.
Oh, there we go. So, you've had a look at the video itself. We're talking about the investigation at the Witch's Leg at East Somerton, obviously.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get people to sort of have a look at it and see what they think, because we had so much going on the night. And we were really rather surprised what happened, to tell the truth, because we weren't expecting half of it, were we?
No, we weren't.
Honestly, it was just complete and utter surprise for us. So, if I say to you, would you like to sort of say in your own words what you thought of it, without sort of trying to big ourselves up or anything? Could you do that for us, please?
Well, you teased about it for quite some time before you released it, and I thought, he's making a mountain out of a molehill. No, you weren't. It was a mountain. There was so much going on that night.
It was fascinating, really completely fascinating. I mean, we didn't, honestly, we turned up there, we put our kit out, we thought, okay, we may get one or two things, we'll see what happens, and it kicked off straight away, didn't it? Yeah, almost straight away, so very strange. Very strange.
I think it's interesting as well that, considering the story is centred on this witch that's supposedly buried under the church, you didn't pick up on one, and from looking at other people who've gone there, like Val Thomas, Weird Norfolk, lots of different people, we've been discussing this episode because we really enjoyed it. And from what I can understand, mediums and people who are sensitive, they don't pick up on a witch either.
No, I didn't. I mean, I am a psychic medium, and I didn't pick up on a witch at all. I picked up on a lot of other things, but as far as I was concerned, there was no witch.
Just this power source, a lot of people say.
There is. It was, but it wasn't anything negative. I mean, what I was getting very much was a male energy, and the male energy didn't want females there. And I felt like the chap that was there that I was picking up on was trying to escort me out of the venue, out of the location. He just didn't.
You had that bruise. How long did the bruise stay there?
That was a couple of days.
Yeah, because you noticed it on
about 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it was the following day when you noticed it, wasn't it? Because you were out and you saw it.
I think that was when he because I felt somebody almost grab me, and I was just like, ow. And then I was rubbing it, and I had to look, and I had a red mark there. And then obviously the next day, overnight, it had turned into a bruise, and I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Is it coincidence? Was that basically, because somebody or something did touch me or grab me or whatever? It was really, really strange, really strange. But the energy as well in the premises, there was a slight tone of negativity, but I don't think that was anything residual, I think that is just what people have come in and done, because there have been people going in there, hasn't there, and fooling around with.
Yeah, we've seen like dead bits of animals. They've sort of
Yeah.
inscribed symbols on the ground and stuff like that. So it is the sort of the usual thing, kids mucking about doing what they think is devil worshipping.
Yeah.
The
But they
dabblers.
don't
Yeah.
really know what they're doing.
That's
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah, it just creates
yeah.
negative energy. It's no more than that, really. But I mean, that was all I was getting. I certainly wasn't getting any witches. I wasn't even getting any female energy at all. But from what and how that tree sprouted in the middle of a church is interesting, because you don't see things like that, do you? Very often, I've never seen it anywhere else.
And it is the one thing there. It's the only tree in the middle of that church. There's nothing else in there.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
now,
quite interesting.
from looking online, that a lot of people have said, well, a couple of people have said it could have been a squirrel burying an acorn there. But when there was someone who came on to disprove that. They said the way the oak has grown, that there's no branches lower down. It's this that even like people who are like tree experts are a bit like, there's something odd about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there isn't anything. It's not until it actually goes up through the roof itself that actually then the
Yeah.
canopy opens out. So it is basically a very long. They call it the witch's finger. It is like a finger pointing to the sky. So yeah,
Really is. It's absolutely fascinating. I mean, it's really bizarre. I mean, when we sort of first went in, I don't know how you felt, Nigel, but I certainly felt like we had eyes on us, like we were being watched.
there's something they're watching us.
Yeah, particularly
Interesting.
in the tower part. Now, because you'd done some research, hadn't you, Nigel, prior to the investigation, and you
Yeah.
said that the tower part was older.
It's older than the church itself. The tower was put
Yeah.
up first. The
Right.
actual church, main church itself, was put up afterwards. And there's something like a gap of, I think, about 200 years or something like that between the two, which is quite,
Yeah, it's quite a
it's a
an
big
age.
difference between them.
Yeah.
Was the tower part of the monastery buildings?
It's part of it. You're looking at the things that I actually found out.
Yeah.
Possibly that it could be the St Leonard's Leper Hospital. That wouldn't
Yes.
surprise me if that wasn't part of that.
And that's what I was
Interesting.
seeing,
Yeah,
because I thought I was seeing monks.
they're not monks. They're lepers.
No, but you said to me that they
They'd have been
lived.
in a habit though, like a
They would
sort
have.
of.
Yeah,
They
and
lived.
that's what I was seeing.
Yeah.
The one I saw was a male in the
Yeah.
habit, and he did not want me there.
And they live like monks. Because the actual hospital itself was run by a religious organisation, so there would have been a couple of people to look after them there. There would have been brethren of some sort. There would have been a prior actually running it with some helpers as well. But they had to live a monastic life while they were in there, so they were effectively monks. So yeah, and that's where the monks come from. There's a question that we were asked by somebody on a Twitter group, it's Mark Davis from Paranormal Reason, where do the monks come from? They're not monks, they're lepers, but they are monks. Does that make sense? Because they live a monastic
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, well, they look like monks to look at them, don't they?
I mean, I covered the actual hospital bit in my article in the Haunted magazine about the fact that we sort of found that site, and then went on to describe, the leper hospital, how they lived in the leper hospital, the things that happened there as well, because there was lots of strange events that happened in that leper hospital, which explains why they seem to be rather upset at people that go there. So
I'm
They're still
wondering,
guarding the place.
yeah,
they are guarding it, because people
Yeah,
say
absolutely.
the rumor is that the monks are there to stop you from getting the witch to come out from underneath the tree. But of course, stories get twisted.
There is something buried in that church
Yeah,
that they are particular about, but it isn't a witch. And I didn't get to the bottom of who was buried in that church.
Is
There are
it
people
is it
buried in it.
someone or something?
I think it's a someone, and I think it's someone that was very important to them,
Right.
is what I was getting. And they were quite protective of that. But I didn't get to the bottom of what, or, well, I should say who, actually, it was. I mean, that was what I was picking up.
That would be a benefactor of sorts. So often people, to be buried in the church in medieval times, sorry, a boy with history now,
No, it's interesting.
full of this rubbish.
Interesting.
To get buried in a church in medieval times, you would have to be a benefactor to get inside the church, and the more you gave, the closer to the altar you would get. The idea was to buy your way into heaven, which is why you get to some medieval churches, they've got like tombs of knights and things on the floors or on the walls, and they're near the altar. this is a very, very old church. It's actually a chapel. It's not a church, which makes me think that's why it's attached to the monastery, because a chapel has to be attached to another building.
I said that, didn't I? It's a
Yeah,
bigger
it was a bigger
building.
building.
You
Yeah,
did.
so
You said that before you knew. Yeah.
yeah, so
Interesting.
it is interesting. But there would have been benefactors probably would have been buried in that chapel. So someone who'd given money to to the organisation itself, to the hospital, could well be buried in there.
Ah,
Which is
okay,
why
that's
it's important to
interesting.
the monks, because obviously if there's a benefactor buried in there, then they're like, oh, I'm going to protect that person. Yeah, so yeah,
There was,
Interesting.
when I first heard the story, I first heard it on Weird Norfolk, and when they talked about like the wooden leg and the witch, I did wonder whether it was a tale that got twisted slightly, because a lot of supposed witches, accused women, would have been buried with a wooden stake through their heart. They used to do it with people who
Yes,
took
of
their own lives,
course.
because they believed that
Yeah.
they would. There was this belief, and it's all over Britain, but a lot in Essex, and I assume in Norfolk. I'm out of my territory here. This is Schieffer and Statia's territory, but I'm tiptoeing in. Yeah, they would have been buried with the stake in their heart, because they believed they could rise again afterwards. And there's even some cases where, if there was one woman who was accused of being a witch, and she took the life of her baby before she took the life of herself, and she had two stakes. And there was one woman found with about 5 stakes in, so each stake represented a life they took before their own,
yeah,
Wow.
which is pretty grim. I thought maybe that wove its way into some folklore.
Possibly.
Sometimes you can see folklore blurring from story to story, so
Oh,
there could have
yeah.
been a woman who wasn't that far away buried, and maybe when the tree grew they were like, oh, that must be her,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
just putting 2 and 2 together.
It's the
Yeah.
fact that the thing with the burial is when they say it's a witch that's buried in a church, they're not often buried in churches.
No, they'd have been on the south side.
Yeah, they would on the side where they wouldn't want. They normally with things like, especially where they feared they would come back, they would bury them at crossroads, so they
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
know
you
how to
often
get
find them
back.
at crossroads with a stone
That'd
on
be,
them sometimes.
that's right, and they'd bury them face down as well, which is another thing they would do. So then they wouldn't be able to dig their way out, which is
It's horrible, isn't it?
creepy stuff. But yeah, that's all the things they sort of did because they were terrified of them. Like you said, they'd put them to death. Hanging was normally the way they would kill them. This witch apparently was supposed to have been buried alive in a box under the church, but why bury them under the church?
Yeah, that would have been a
You know?
place of quite
Yeah,
prestigious.
yeah. And then the other thing to sort of diss the witch, yeah, I'm dissing the witch here, which is not a very good thing to do. But the period that they're saying this took place in wasn't sort of prime witch hunt period of history.
No, it wasn't.
It was
When
a
did they
lot
say it took
earlier.
place?
They talking about taking it place in the 1400s, so
Oh,
that's
that's
way
way
too
too
early.
early for
Yeah.
witch craze.
If they
And for
talk,
the tree as well.
yeah, the tree. There's no way that tree is more than 100 years old.
No.
I would
Yeah.
say, you know. And we had Matthew Hunter and John Stern up this way, the Witchfinder General. Obviously, you know him from Essex as well because you've been down that way too.
Hopkins.
Hopkins, sorry,
Matthew
Matthew Hopkins.
Hopkins.
Yeah, not Hunter. Honestly, I'm good at
Witch
this one.
Hunter Matthew Hopkins.
That's
There was
him.
one podcast that said, "Oh, Erie Essex really hate Anthony Hopkins." No, no, we don't. We
Anthony
don't hate
Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins.
No, but I looked through the records because I've actually got the records of the trials that took place in Yarmouth for the Witchfinder, and there wasn't anybody from that area. Plus the fact the church actually went out of use just shortly after that period as well. But it had been in ruin before then anyway, so it actually fell out of
And
use
then the
in
dates
the.
match, do they?
No, they don't. So there's nothing to match it up at all. So
No.
it is. There probably was a wise woman that lived in that village. She probably was possibly put to death, but I doubt very much she was buried in the church. It just doesn't. The things just don't add up.
No.
You know.
I was thinking. I mean, the bit of your video. I mean, lots happened, but the bit with the bombing was incredible.
I just,
It
do you know what? Couldn't
doesn't
figure
sound
it
like
out.
anything like fireworks or
It was
anything.
bizarre.
Well, we thought it was fireworks to start with.
The
We
bombing
did.
has a very definite sound to it, doesn't it? It's a low. I mean, we're near the barracks here at Colchester, and when they practice, there's a very definitive sound to shelling and bombing. It's deeper. It's
Yes, because
lower. It's
I have where I live here in Attleborough, we have air bases up here, so I know exactly what you mean, because sometimes they do it sort of 11:30 at night, and you can hear it, and it is quite an obvious sound. It really is, and it was just bizarre.
It's so strange. I mean, the fact that it started off, we heard what sounded like gunfire. First of all, we heard this weird voice just shouting. It's just
Yeah.
going, oi, oi. And we thought, oh, God, there's someone coming.
We thought someone was mucking about.
Yeah, someone
to
mucking
begin
about. So
with.
we sort of get ready to run in case we needed to, because you do get this sometimes on investigation. But then it started sounding like gunfire, and I said to Julia, "This is really weird. What's going on?" She'd record it.
Yeah.
So I said, "Right, okay." So I set the digital recorder up. Thank God, because we wouldn't have got that otherwise. And then it just kicked off,
It was bizarre.
and we're just
Really
looking.
bizarre.
We're looking for fireworks. We're looking for flashes, anything at all.
Yeah, and there was nothing.
And there was
I mean,
absolutely nothing there.
I even after the investigation, I thought, could it be because I know they're putting in sort of wind power off in the seas off the coast here. And I thought, are they putting them up, at night? Are they sort of drilling or banging into the sea floor, which could be ricocheting? I even thought about that. I even
Yeah.
looked up to see if there was any works. There wasn't. I mean, we were trying everything
Yeah.
that we could think of to try and cancel out what the noise could be, because we weren't far from the sea,
No.
It
not
did
far
sound
at all.
quite close.
Yeah, and that's the thing with it. And then obviously I'd heavily researched the site beforehand, because I always do.
Yeah.
I'm not only that, I'd written about it as well, so I'd had all that information on hand. And I said to Jules, "Well, this has got nothing to do with the war." And all of a sudden, it just sprung back in my head. John, it was a decoy site, And I said to her, "Oh my God, it was a decoy site during World War II, and they set it
And
out
it
so
was
the
bombed,
Germans
wasn't it?
would bomb it." Yeah, and it was bombed.
And we found
Well,
that
I
information, didn't we, after the investigation?
That's the scary thing. The fact that then afterwards we went through the records trying to find if there was a bombing raid on that
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
And there was a series of raids over 4 nights. And they'd hit Galston, which is further along the coast. So as soon as the raid, what happened with these sites is, I mean, I explained it in the video itself, as soon as a raid starts, then they'll try and put the initial fires out, and then they'll set fire to the decoy site to confuse the second wave of German bombers to
wave,
bomb
yeah.
that instead. So Galston would have been hit. They would have been radioed through from Galston saying, "We've had an attack at Galston," which is just up the coast from Yarmouth, which is an unusual site for them to bomb. So obviously aiming for Yarmouth missed. So then they would have set that decoy site alight. So the next wave of bombers then would have hit the decoy site. So
Interesting.
were we? I mean,
I don't know. Was it a kind of a time
some
slip?
weird kind of time slip?
Were
Were we
Were we
hearing them?
picking out one?
It's funny you say that, because I was talking about this with Shifra, because I told her to watch the video because she loves East Somerton. And she's actually sent me an email with some thoughts.
Okay, yeah.
If I
Go
can
ahead.
just read it out,
That's
because
fine,
she
yeah,
knows
no
a lot
problem.
about
We're-
the
We're
area.
interested because we obviously want to do this to try and get to the bottom of things, which
Yeah,
is why we've
absolutely.
thrown it across to somebody else who understands, what we're going through with this, because we don't want to seem like we're completely nuts.
I think you are. Well, listen to this now. So she starts talking about the bombing sounds. This was really, really interesting. I didn't know that the area was being used as a decoy for bombing raids on Yarmouth, but it would make sense as Yarmouth was bombed in both World Wars. I don't know if the sounds were on the anniversary, but as you said, there were. The thing I found most interesting about what is in the area does seem to be somewhat of a time slip hotspot. We have a well-documented time slip at Horning, one in the centre of Great Yarmouth, and a newly recovered case just off the Acle Strait.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah.
from what I know of the area, sort of like they're around
Yes, yeah,
Somerton.
yeah. Well, I know the Yarmouth one really well. That was a shop. The guy went into the shop to buy some stuff, or I was a lady or a gentleman, I can't remember exactly. And then he went back again to find the shop again, and it just wasn't there.
So
And the Horning
weird.
one, I think someone was walking through Horning, and it looked like they'd gone back in time. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they were walking through the village itself, and they thought, "Well, this is really odd. It doesn't look right at all." Yeah. But the Acle one, that's a new one on me, so I'll have to look that one up. And that's
I'll
quite
send you the
interesting.
information. Yeah, exactly. As you
Yeah,
said, that's
no,
a new
that's
one
fascinating.
that's come up. But
Yeah,
Acle, I mean, yeah, they're not anywhere really near, but they form like a nice circle around almost.
that's all in that area. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it is. I mean, they're all within. I said they're all within about 10 miles of each other.
Well, but I tried to look up. I've got a book here, East Anglia, and it's looking at the ridgeways and ley lines.
Oh,
I
right, yeah.
bought it for Essex, and there's sod all about Essex in it, but there's loads about
That's all you
Norfolk.
need. Yeah.
So you're welcome to have a look at it after me.
Okay.
But I was trying to look, because as I say, I don't know the Norfolk coast at all, but I went on Google Maps and tried to look, and there seemed to be ley lines and ridgeways going, like literally crisscrossing over the whole of it. And what's odd is that the East Somerton area has nothing. It's almost odd in that respect that it doesn't have anything. It's almost
There's
like a
nothing
void.
there. Yeah. Yeah, that's strange. I mean, looking at the history of the site, there are a couple of there's a few Bronze Age burial mounds nearby in that sort of area. We've got one. I live at Martham. There's one there. There's another couple at West Somerton, which is a little bit further over. But yeah, the fact there's no sort of laser. We have got a big. I think is it St Michael's Lane that's in this way?
I think there is,
Yeah, it
yeah.
It's
runs
just
across the
south of
top
it.
of
The
the park.
St Michael's ley line is just
Yeah,
south.
yeah,
Close enough, maybe. That's a big one.
yeah,
There was a talk on witchcraft from the Folklore Library and Archive, and
yeah,
Val Thomas, who's from Norfolk, spoke, and she talked about the area, especially with like the flint and the chalk around there, and how the chalk represents the feminine spirit, and the flint is the male. And
yeah.
from what I understand of the East Somerton area, it's very flint heavy.
It is. Yes. Yeah.
So just that male presence, it could be, going right back to the minerals in the ground. It's very male.
Right. That's
Yeah, that
interesting,
is
isn't
really
it?
interesting. I hadn't
'Cause the
thought
fact
about
that's
that.
that what you picked up on when you were there was the fact
Yeah,
that it was
yeah.
more male
Oh,
orientated, wasn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't. I couldn't pick up on any female energy at all.
No. No.
You
And
Well,
they
a lot
didn't
of
want you
people
there.
do pick up on this powerful. It's not necessarily negative, but you don't want to dabble with it.
No.
I mean, Val
Yeah.
did end her talk with talking about the witch's leg, and she said she didn't get a witch or anything like that, but she did get this sense of this. She's connected with whatever power is there, and she said it's very, very powerful and very ancient, and it's not something you want to do as a novice. Let's say
No.
it's raw.
Yeah. Interesting. That's
Okay.
fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. Well, when we were calling out, I noticed that when we got it to actually mess about with the tri-field meter that we were using, it would only respond when I asked it to do things.
Yeah, that was.
It
Yes,
didn't
I
respond
noticed
when
that.
you did. Yeah.
On
Yeah,
command.
So yeah, which
didn't
is quite
listen to,
interesting again. Yeah.
which not nice, but not nice. It didn't talk. It talked to you, Nigel. Not nice that it ignored Juliet.
Yeah, but then, like Julia was saying, she got that impression that they didn't want her there, so they were
But
quite
it's
happy
When
to
you had that
respond to
pain
me.
in your back and that feeling, that was so
Yeah,
aggressive.
it really was. But it was also the fact, I suppose, in their era that women were not considered important enough to be spoken to, really. They were second class citizens, weren't they, during that time period?
Yeah, I mean, equality would have been different in those days.
Very
Yeah,
much so. But the pain, I whatever it was trying. I don't do mediumship anymore. I don't touch it. I will work as a psychic, but I don't entertain anything talking through me. I won't do that now. And it was definitely trying to talk through me. What whomever he was trying to communicate, and it was
Mr. Chance there.
no, it's not pleasant.
No, I know. Well,
It's
I
not
would.
pleasant.
If anything happened, I wouldn't know what to do anyway.
Well, you
So
just have to get me out.
yeah,
That's the only thing. But I'm in control of it, and I don't let things do that now. And I will take myself out of the situation if I
I
feel
think that's very
that it,
wise. You obviously, yeah, as you
yeah.
say, it was quite malevolent and didn't want you there.
It was strong energy. It was strong energy, but again, it wasn't evil or negative. It was just kind of, you don't belong here, you need to leave. And it was very strong energy. But I wasn't getting anything evil or spiteful or unkind or anything like that. It was almost like dominating, is how I'd explain it.
Just plain devil's advocate here. I mean, the way Val described it, this sort of like really like not evil but dangerous to connect with it. Could they have been getting you out of there because you were in danger? Was there any sense of they were getting you out for your own protection? I'm just literally spitballing
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah, absolutely. No, I didn't sense that at all.
Right, okay.
I didn't sense anything you know, of serious spiritual nature or anything like that. I mean, all I basically was getting was male energies that were asking me to leave. I mean, that was it. I wasn't getting any more than that.
So
Were
they
they
could have been.
human, or
Possibly.
Yeah.
would they have been human at one point, or
Oh, yeah, definitely.
right? Okay, so yeah, just
Absolutely,
wondering
definitely.
nature spirits or something.
Yeah, no, I didn't get anything like that at all.
Mm.
I mean, I've had things like that before. I've picked up on some very elsewhere, some very unpleasant things. When we did Castle Rise and Castle in King's Lynn, that
Oh,
was very unpleasant and sinister.
something very. That oubliette, there
Oh,
was something horrible down there, wasn't
that,
there?
yeah,
Right.
that really was very negative energy in there. But yeah, no, Witch's Leg, nothing like that at all. I just was picking up on men, which I thought at the time were monks that were trying to escort me off the premises because they didn't want me there. I mean, that was it, but they were trying to communicate. I think there's a story to be told and they want to tell it. And they were trying to make contact, which is why obviously
Yeah.
we had that connection
Yeah.
with the kit, and they were responding to Nigel as well. And we saw on the grid, the laser grid, that moved, didn't it? We
I
saw that
saw
and
a
it got
figure, but
switched.
Nigel said it was you. I'm sure you weren't stood anywhere near though. I saw a shadow pass it.
One of the shadows was me,
Right.
because of the angle I was standing,
Ah,
but
right.
there was movement.
Yeah.
There absolutely was movement.
What it
You
was
can
seemed to
see
be
it.
doing
Yeah.
was you could actually see the green dots themselves. They were blurring in and out,
And that was weird.
which is really strange. 'Cause
Mm.
normally they're just like solid dots, but they were like blurring in and out, weren't they? Like something was
It's like
just
the atmosphere was dense
moving
and
in front of them. Yeah,
becoming
rather than a
dense
shadow
and not
passing through, it
dense.
was the actual. You
Yeah.
got it, the air itself. Yeah,
Yeah, the energy. It was.
Weird.
It was. I think it was
Well, you
the
see
energy
heat,
that was
isn't it? You
seeing.
see heat off the road and it wobbles things.
Yeah,
you've got it.
yeah.
Yeah, like a heat
Yeah.
haze. Yeah,
Like a heat haze, yeah.
yeah.
Well, Shifa said something else about the church, so I'll just carry on
Yeah,
reading what
that's
she
fine.
said.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
I find Somerton such a magical place, and it's interesting that people have such different experiences there. I have no doubt that there are a number of entities there. I feel like different entities are drawn to different people, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever I've been there, I've had nothing but a calming energy, and I feel very drawn to the tree. I always place my hand on it when I'm there. I've only ever been there in the dark once, and I can't really remember how it felt as it was many, many years ago. But now I can certainly say during the day it's a calming, friendly energy for me. And from all the accounts I've read, I get the impression that night is a completely different matter. Was there a different feeling between night and day when you went?
Yes, there was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Daytime, it's really calm. It's really quite lovely. I
Yeah.
mean, you can get lost. You can sit and listen, and obviously, it's in the middle of nowhere, and it's gone back to nature. So you get bird song, trees rustling. It's really quite nice to
It's
sort of stand.
It
beautiful
looks
and
beautiful,
pretty.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's not a lot there, but it doesn't need to be a lot there to actually sort of
No.
lose yourself in it. But
I mean, different.
it
I
got
like what you said
really
about
calm.
different people as well, because we did a episode on forests, and
Yeah,
I looked at Epping Forest, which has got all manner of horrific things happen there. I mean, like in vast numbers. It's weird, but when you look at pictures and you hear people who perhaps don't know the stories, different people get like opposite ends of the spectrum, either really peaceful or really horrific. There's no middle ground really. It's
yeah.
I wonder if different people like connect with different things.
I
Perhaps some
think
people
so.
connect with a malevolent force. Some people are draw positive in.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I do think there's an element of that for sure. I think once you've experienced something malevolent, I think you tend to be able to experience it and notice it, a lot easier in my experience. I mean, as soon as I had almost like my first experience, I could then pick up on it fairly quickly, a lot quicker than before. But I definitely think that's the case. I think it's also a link to your belief system as well. because if people don't believe, obviously they're completely closed off to everything, or if people just want to believe in the power of good, then they tend to focus on that. So I think a lot of it is to do with your perception as well on things.
I know what you mean about if you've experienced it, then you can pick it up, because
Yeah.
I had that incident in the house I grew up, and you can always tell it. People have said, "Oh, it must have been really frightening, the atmosphere." It's like, no, it was void. That was what was odd. It wasn't that it felt scary; it was the absence of good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And it's a really weird feeling.
It's unsettling.
Really weird. It
We
really
went.
is. Yeah.
We haven't posted it yet, but we did a listener story at a cafe in Colchester, and they let us go into the basement below, which is part of the old Roman wall, and it was really cool. It was like proper like creepy cellar, from a film, and yeah, there was a weird feeling down there, and I didn't say anything at the time because I thought, oh, I'm just going to sound like I'm doing it for the podcast, just like egging it
Yeah.
up a bit. But no, there was definitely, and again, it was that feeling. It wasn't bad. It was just the absence of good, like like a cold greenhouse. That's how I was trying to describe it.
Yeah.
It's like something's not right. The air's different. And
And
when we
there is
came
that
back up
sort of
again,
uneasiness as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I didn't see it going down, so it didn't affect my opinion. But when I came back up, we noticed that carved into the steps was a swastika and quite nasty things written,
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
which isn't nice. I'm not saying anything happened there to do with that, but
Well, that was the same
whoever feels that's good to put there has been a nasty presence in the place.
I
Well,
was
yeah,
going to say it's left
absolutely.
that presence behind it, and by carving that symbol into it, because that's got different connotations for different things. Because it is a religious symbol as such, the swastika.
It
But
is, yes.
it had been
Not what was
taken.
written next to it, though.
No, I'm not going to say. Then they've actually turned it into
Yeah,
what it was
it's
intended
sad.
for when the Germans used it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And we found out as well that, well, it was the red light district of Colchester in the medieval period, and there was a medium there once who picked up on women being held there, but not of their choose. I doubt many people in that time would have chosen that profession, but these were particularly kept there, and in not nice conditions. So it was that again. It's not. It's very hard to describe. But once you've felt it, it's, as you say, it's like, yeah, I don't know, like eating something, then you can taste it again. It's a very, you're attuned to it then, maybe.
Yeah. And events like that happening in that space, then often it leaves that feeling behind as well. So if they had been down there and held against their will, then it's going to leave that atmosphere behind, which is like you're saying, why it doesn't feel so good is because these events have happened there and they've left an element of it behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll carry on with what Shifa said. She really enjoyed this episode, by the way.
Okay.
She was rushing out the door, getting ready, but she was late because she was so interested, and like she still had a ley line book in her hand as she was going out the door.
Oh, bless her.
So she would have been here tonight if she hadn't been going out. So it's difficult with outside investigations as you have so little control of what's going on around you. Snapping of twigs, things dropping, etc. can probably be easily explained. That being said, the interactions Nigel and Juliette had with their devices can't seem to be easily explained, and they were very unusual. I believe Nigel said that he'd had one of the instruments for several years and it had never reacted in that way before. Very interesting. And she's put in brackets, I say very interesting a lot. I was interested to hear Juliette picking up on a possible name. The only thing to do now is try it out. She won't be, she says.
Okay. Yeah.
There was 100% something there. I'm not sure who, what, or why. The area has been visited by people for many, many years. Could people have summoned something not specifically related to the church? Which I thought was quite interesting because you said there were things there, perhaps kids have been
That's what I think.
dabbling.
Yeah, that's what I think's happened, yeah.
And then something saw, they didn't, they were mucking about maybe, and then something saw an easy way in. Oh, there's a nice bit of power over there. Oh, they've opened the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think's happened there.
I'll be interested to know if there's any. I mean, I've been looking because I'm writing a book on subterranean folklore. I'm looking a lot of how quartz deposits can affect the higher number of sightings take place over quartz deposits, especially in America and like the Appalachian Mountains, and America's forest just freaked me out. Just I'm watching a program at the moment, and it's like, yeah, I'm not going there.
Yeah, these woods are haunted. You were
Some
saying
of
about that
it's,
earlier
I
on.
mean,
Yeah.
some of it's
Oh,
really
God, yeah.
amazing. I've
It's
been to
really
the mystery spots in California, and they're fascinating. Really
there's
are
so many. There's that
fascinating.
vortex, isn't there, in Oregon that
Yeah,
that like the up is down, and it's just
it's bizarre, and it's even like water. When it sort of spins around and goes down, sort of the gurgle. I call it the gurgle. The
the
gurgle.
Google. It goes around
Um,
the other way, doesn't it?
it goes the other way, and I've actually seen that. And the
So
trees have all grown up in a strange way, and you won't hear birds singing. The birds won't
no,
go.
and like any object will roll back. It's like the ferry
Yeah,
roads in the Isle of Man and Ireland. You know that things will roll back up the hill.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating, but I think it's all to do. It's all explainable. It's all to do with the Earth's
Mm.
core and the magnetism, isn't it?
Hmm.
And I mean, I also visited the Native American vortexes in Sedona, and stood in some of the, but I didn't pick anything up. I stood there hoping to, and thinking, wow, because they keep a lot of them hidden,
Mm.
because it's very important to them. But there's one that they, open up to the tourists, and I kind of stood in there hoping, being spiritual, to be able to pick up on the energy. But I didn't get anything. I was gutted, absolutely gutted. But I love all this stuff, and I
Mm.
get a calling to go to Glastonbury every so often, and go to the top
Oh,
of
I've
the
always wanted
tall.
to go.
I will sit there and recharge, and I have to do it sort of every 3 to 4 years or so, just to recharge. It's almost like I just recharge up there, is the way I describe it. And I've had photographs taken coming down, and you can actually almost see an energy around me, a glow. It's like
I
Ready
wonder
Eddie
what
out
your
of
aura
Ready
looks
Ready.
like before you go up and after you come down.
It's it's just
Oh,
golden. It really
that's
is.
interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Because I do say your aura is golden. The first time we had that, was it uncanny? When did we
Yeah,
first
it
meet?
was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite like, oh, whoa, gold.
Blimey.
Nigel has
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah. But I
No,
do.
I just can't see yours, Nigel. That's all.
We need to know what yours
It's
is.
okay. I probably haven't
I
got one.
can't see them. I'm starting to be able to see them around plants and trees, but I can't
No.
see them around people yet.
I only see it around a handful, just and myself sometimes, but no.
I'd love to see them around people, but I can't. Love to. Not yet. They say it will come in time, but maybe not. I don't know.
Have to wait and see.
But that place does sound amazing. I mean, monks dabbled too. I mean, I didn't look into it, but Elsa did because we did Naughty Monks.
That's a fabulous podcast. I listened to that. Really interesting.
Oh God,
Yeah.
they were up to no good.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
And
When you read
we're
through the
not that far
records,
away from you here in Essex. You know, there's only Suffolk separating us.
Yeah,
yeah,
I know. Not far
And
at
like,
all.
I mean, in Wales, even they were involved with smugglers. They had their hands in a lot of pies.
oh
And then
God,
when
yeah,
the monasteries were dissolution, they just were like, oh, can't go home, can't do this. Oh, we were studying the occult. Oh, we'll pick that up. A lot of them did, apparently. I didn't know that. Elsa uncovered that
yeah.
because they were
Wow.
studying it to sort of like, you know, be God's warrior against it. So then when they were just dropped out of the monastery, that's all they knew.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So who knows around that area? Maybe they're not
Yeah,
they're protecting
possibly.
something for themselves.
Yeah. That's
Sid Moore could
interesting.
make a really good story out of this. Have you heard of Sid Moore? She wrote some really cool books on like the witchcraft trials around here, fictions, but based on real,
Oh,
All
really?
right, no.
Okay, I'm
like the
not
real
familiar with that.
stories. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell her about this. Yeah.
We better look for them.
I know. I was going to
I love a
say.
good book. Yeah, definitely.
Sounds really interesting.
Oh, but that whole
Superb.
area just sounds. Next time you go, and if I'm available, can I come?
Oh, yes.
Oh yes, there's an open-ended invitation there,
Absolutely.
Mrs. You're more than welcome.
Oh, yeah. We'd love to see
I have a
you.
We'd love to
really
see you.
nice night vision camera I want to try.
I wonder where you got that from.
I wonder where I got that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was from
Bless
these
you.
guys, listeners. They're very nice. And as I mentioned, Shifra, just if obviously I love Nigel and Juliette stuff, and if you want to hear about Norfolk as well from a folklore point of view, then Shifra and Stacia do Weird Norfolk.
It's very good. Yeah, they have their own podcasts and they have little bits in the Eastern Daily Press and Evening News as well. So, and they do
And
cover a
Laura
lot.
the Land, which looks at Britain.
Yeah, they are very, very good. So I pick up a lot of stuff from them, and then we sort of continue and roll the stories out. I mean, this one here is the one I've sort of looked at their stories in the Evening News and gone back and thought, yeah, okay, we can tell that. So yeah, that's
It
good.
was through them we started ours, because I said, are you ever going to do any Essex stories? And they said, no. Why don't you do one? Okay. And we did.
It's a way to do it, isn't
Why
it?
not?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for taking the time to have a chat with us
It's
and
been
running through bits and
lovely.
pieces.
Lovely.
And thank you for chatting to, I can't remember pronounce her name properly, Siofra?
Shifra.
Shifra. Chatting to Shifra for us as well and getting her opinions too. It's really nice to sort of listen to somebody else
Absolutely.
and sort of think, okay, we're not as mad as we think we are. We did actually sort of
No.
experience all these weird things, but it's just,
And I watch loads of paranormal shows, and you can explain a lot of it, and it's good fun. But I couldn't. There was things that happened to you guys that was just a bit.
It was.
Yeah.
And we
Weird.
try and explain things where we can. Because
That's what
most
I
of the
liked. You were
time-
really healthily skeptical about a lot of things.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because most of the time there is a logical explanation, but on this occasion we couldn't find
Yeah.
one.
We'll always offer an alternative, but sometimes there just isn't one. Yeah.
But yeah,
And for the bombs, definitely not.
No, bizarre.
my 2-year-old's up. I gotta go.
Oh, bless
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much, Bethan.
Thank you,
And we'll see you
Bethan.
soon. Okay, take care.
Look after
Yeah,
yourself.
hope we see you soon.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Well, there you go.
That's it.
Something a little different.
Are we done?
We are indeed.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it, guys.
Yeah, I really hope you do. And thank you so much for participating and giving us some questions to answer. And thanks again to Bethan for actually coming on and helping us out and chatting through the
was fab.
investigation. It was fab.
Lovely
yeah.
to talk to Beth.
Lovely person.
Really nice.
Thank you so much. So, next time I think we're going to go back to possibly telling some stories.
Hey, why not?
I've got some
There's
lined up.
so many stories to tell.
We have some corkers to tell.
Oh, we do indeed.
Yeah.
Watch this space, guys.
Slightly gory. One thing I just want to ask before we disappear, for those of you that like to listen to us on our podcasts or go and watch us on YouTube, could I possibly please just ask you to follow us on the podcasts, and if there's a chance to give us a rating or make a comment, could you please do that as well, because it's very important to us to get some feedback, and it also makes it easier for our podcast to be picked up by other people. And if you enjoy what we're doing on YouTube, could you please like the videos on there and subscribe to us as well? If we can get ourselves up to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we can actually go on and do live performances on there as well, which is something else we'd like to add to our arsenal of weirdness.
Something else to terrify you with,
Exactly.
eh? Our two moon faces on screen. How about that, eh?
We don't look so bad.
Oh, that's just worth a like, isn't it?
It
eh?
certainly is.
Go
So
for
go
it.
on. Just go on and subscribe.
Yeah,
Get us up
go
to
on,
1,000.
Go on. You know you want to.
Go on. Do it. Do it now. Anyway, it's time for us to go.
It really is. It's past my bedtime, you know.
It's well past bedtime.
I know, right? I need my beauty sleep.
It's been a very late night. And I've got to drive all the way home yet.
Oh, bless you. And it's dark.
I know. And it's scary.
Haunted Norfolk, driving in the dark night.
There's bingling, jingling bells in the background from
Oh,
Izzy Cat as well.
that's the paranormal cat, Izzy.
Has to make an appearance.
She does indeed.
But it's time for us now to disappear. So thank you very much for listening. And it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from me. Take care, lovely folk.
Good night.